Hello and welcome to the Deliberate Exchange podcast. My name is Chelsea. I'm otherwise known as the Deliberate One, and I'm so glad that you're here. We made it. And I want to ask you a question. Have you ever felt stuck? Like you're spinning your wheels and you know deep down that there's way more that you're capable of, but fear, uncertainty, or maybe just the weight of everything that life tends to throw at you keeps holding you back. I know that feeling all too well because I have been there. A few years ago, my life looked absolutely so different. Now, back then, on the outside, everything might have seemed fine. Like I was smiling, I was still doing all the things, had a great job. But inside, I was exhausted and I was overwhelmed and completely out of alignment with the person that I wanted to be. With the person that I would sit down every New Year's and conjure up that I'd be the person who meditates and the person who works out regularly and who drinks water and who took care of herself. And then I was carrying the weight of loss, grief, and of course my own expectations at the same time. I was using alcohol to numb the pain, to quiet my anxious mind that I had suddenly developed, and of course to just make it through another day. And instead of it helping, it was hurting me. And I wasn't just escaping reality, I was escaping myself. And then I was stuck in a loop of overdoing, overcommitting, overindulging, all the overs, and hoping that something would fill the emptiness that I felt. And the truth is, I didn't know how to stop. And it took me hitting what felt like my personal rock bottom, a culmination of exhaustion, grief, and a deep realization that I couldn't keep on living that way. And then to finally decide to make a conscious choice that something had to change. I had to face the fear of starting over and figure out how the hell I was going to rebuild my life from the inside out. Now, the process wasn't easy. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything here. Quitting drinking was up there with one of the harder decisions that I've had to make for a number of different reasons, but it was also one of the most important. It forced me to actually sit with my emotions instead of running from them, and to heal the parts of me that I'd been avoiding, and of course to take responsibility for my own happiness instead of putting it in the hands of everything else. And through that process, I discovered something that changed everything: the power of living deliberately. And so what does living deliberately even mean? It means stepping off of and out of autopilot, breaking free from the routines and habits that no longer serve you. And I understand what it's like to just all of a sudden feel like, how did I get here? It means choosing to live with intention, presence, and awareness, even when it's uncomfortable. It means getting honest with yourself about what you want and what's holding you back, and then taking really big, brave, imperfect steps toward creating a life that actually aligns with your values and your desires. For me, living deliberately meant letting go of habits that drain my energy. It meant learning how to set boundaries, which are hard, but we'll talk about it. And it meant prioritizing my own mental, emotional, and physical health. It meant facing the layers of grief that I had been carrying. Grief from losing loved ones and losing parts of myself and losing relationships. And then having to rebuild a life that I didn't recognize. But as hard as it was, it also brought me a profound sense of peace and clarity. It taught me how to reconnect with myself, how to find joy in the little moments, how to show up in my life fully even when things aren't perfect, how to find a home within myself. And that's what I want for you too. And so why this podcast? I created the Deliberate Exchange podcast because I know how hard it can be to navigate life's challenges on your own. Like there's no roadmap. And whether you're dealing with grief or you're stuck in unhealthy patterns, or you're just feeling like you're meant for more, like that feeling inside that like there's more out there for you, I want you to know that you're not alone and you don't have to stay where you are. This podcast is a space for honest conversations about what it takes to live deliberately. Of course, I'll share my own stories about my journey, about navigating grief and letting go of what wasn't serving me and learning how to thrive again. I'll talk about the tools and practices that helped me along the way, like breath work and self-reflection and building habits that actually stick. And I'll also bring on guests. I'll have past clients and peers and other incredible humans who have their own stories of transformation. And you're going to love hearing from them. Together, we're going to go over what it's like to overcome fear. We're going to learn how to set boundaries. We're going to break free from perfectionism. And we'll learn about finding the courage to actually live a life that feels authentic and fulfilling. And so for you, the listener, if you're listening to this, it's because some part of you knows that there's more out there for you. And maybe you feel stuck in this routine that doesn't feel right anymore. And maybe you're navigating a big life transition, like starting over after loss or breaking free from a big old habit. And maybe you're just craving more peace and more energy, more alignment in your life. So wherever you are, I want you to know that this change is possible for you. The life you want isn't out of reach. It might feel like that, but it is absolutely within your reach. It's just on the other side of one deliberate choice. It doesn't have to be perfect, and you don't have to have it all figured out. And you don't have to have a big fire sale and burn it all to the ground. You just have to start. Wherever you are, just start. My intention with this podcast is to give you the tools, the insight, and encouragement that you need to take the next step, whatever that is. I want to help you reconnect with yourself, to reimagine what's possible, and to create a life that feels aligned, purposeful, and absolutely yours. These episodes will be real and unfiltered. I'll share the highs and the lows and everything in between because that's what growth looks like. It's messy and it's imperfect and it's deeply human. And it's worth every single step, even the hard steps. And so let's do this together. And I really don't want this to be just another podcast that you listen to and forget about. I want it to be a journey that we take together, a space where you feel seen and heard and inspired and activated to take action in your own life. If this resonates with you, I want you to subscribe so you don't miss an episode and join along. Share this podcast with someone who might need it, like a friend, a partner, or even your past self. If there's something that you want to know more about or something that you're struggling with or curious about, reach out to me. I'd love to hear your story and I'd love to create episodes that actually help you. This podcast is about showing up for yourself in the most deliberate way possible. Because when you do that, when you live with intention and alignment and you don't just survive anymore, you end up thriving. So until next time, breathe it in, be deliberate, and please be good to yourself. And we'll catch you on the next one.